entertainers out there. It is pandemic time with COVID out there in the world. Just got back from having dinner. Interesting experience sitting outside and doing all these things to protect ourselves from this virus. Certainly a different world. So how are we going to survive this? Well, I'm Miss DJ Jesse Mix. I am the owner of Event Party Productions. I'm a disc jockey. I'm a musician, and I entertain at children's parties too. So things have certainly changed in the last year with the pandemic hitting us pretty hard here in the entertainment business. So I've got a little presentation I'd like to give to you today. It's about surviving this pandemic as a music entertainer. So we're going to go ahead and get you going here a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the state of our industry, some of the new rules that we have to adhere to, look into some strategies, and talk a little bit about safety and the future of our business. So let's go ahead and kick this right off over here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the state of our industry. So here is right now the state of entertainment. Not much going on, really. This global pandemic has really put a very difficult hurdle for us to get over, to get outside and do our events and such. So, this continuing COVID-19 crisis is just creating enormous uncertainty and change, and really giving us questions with no obvious answers per se. So, the question is, which changes will persist after, the pandemic is done? If it's ever going to be done. I mean, we're going to be dealing with viruses for the rest of our lives, right? How serious are they going to be? And, what will this new world look like after this pandemic? And how will our industry adapt? And adapt to maybe some new industry standards. Clearly things have changed. And what can we expect in this COVID-19 world? Let's talk a little bit about where the business is right now for us. So where is the business? Here's a closer look on how this has impacted our entertainment industry. So various aspects like mobile events and concerts. I am a mobile DJ, and I do events as well for parties. So I do corporate events. I do events for families in their backyards. I do fundraisers. Basically all kinds of mobile events. And there's also changes that have impacted the film industry, the television and broadcasting world, radio broadcasting, online gaming has been affected. Now, some of these things have been affected in a positive way, webinars and online meetings. So let's take a closer look at these different areas here. So mobile events and concerts. Clearly, multiple events have been canceled, including sporting events, concerts, and award shows. Now, we're at a slow crawl of bringing some of these things back. And then some of the issues happen, like at sporting events. We get players who end up, contracting the virus and, sideline, a bunch of players and such. But events and concerts, award shows. I mean, if you watch an award show, it's pretty much virtual. If you look out in the audience, it's like television screens. Have you seen that already out there? I mean, it's really changed. Earlier recovery is more likely in this business-to-business events than business-to-consumer events, as people continue to remain very weary of crowded places, including myself. I am a little weary going out there. I'm afraid of contracting the virus. I mean, I'm just hitting 50, so I'm up there in the high risk of percentages of people, and I've got people that I love who are high risk as well. So I've got to be careful. All these things affecting us has really affected our cash flow. There's a severe cash flow pressure for all of us. The film entertainment industry has changed. Overall revenue has dried up with movie theater closures, and even attendance at movie theaters are really, really low. As you saw, Mulan was a big thing that Disney was supposed to put out earlier this summer. They decided to do a video on demand. Many movie theaters were upset by that because they wanted people to come back, so they kind of did a multi-layer sort of thing. And the results of that is still kind of mixed. We don't really know exactly how that's performed. Recovery process may be different across segments and demographics based on specific COVID-19 experience and perceived risk from social gatherings and the ability to start filming as well. So, most people in the film industry who work there are actors and actresses, producers, directors, etc., film crews. They are quarantining for 14 days after a test for COVID. and they get rapid testing at most of these places. And then once they get there, they're sequestered, from my understanding. In television broadcasting, this is kind of what's happening. Overall TV viewing, however, has increased, with news channels being popular. Most of us quarantined at home. All we've got is that remote control and the TV in front of us. And clearly, because of what's going on with the coronavirus, and, we're in an election year as well, the overall, there's an absence of fresh content, which leads us all to watch the news quite a bit. So most of us are on CNN or Fox or CNBC or, most of these news channels. And we're, trying to keep, up to date with what's going on with the coronavirus. And radio broadcasting, as I mentioned, radio jockeys are operating from home and also transmitting online through podcasts and streaming. Streaming has really taken off for a lot of these radio disc jockeys. Drop in transit audience listeners are people working from home. So, people aren't traveling in their cars as much and they're working from home, but, they're tuning into the radio stations from their home and podcasts off their, iTunes and Spotify and some of these different places that they listen to radio in their home. Listeners are tuning in more than ever and dialing on their favorite radio personalities and music. Podcast subscriptions are up. So maybe you want to get into podcasting. Online gaming, clearly growth of online gaming due to many quarantined at home and looking for something to do. We are gaming. And, I just recently put on a pair of VR goggles. Amazing. It's like being transported to some other space or place. It's pretty cool, this virtual reality, but I'm going to go over that in just a little bit. Webinar and online meetings, clearly, we're seeing companies holding meetings through virtual platforms. Most of the things I'm doing these days are through, webinar, either through Teams or Zoom, or even Facebook has their meeting rooms as well through there. Families are connecting with each other via web meeting platform more than ever. I can't tell you how many birthdays I have done this year since COVID online through, some of these web meeting platforms. Students and teachers are flocking to the web, utilizing video meeting platforms to continue education. Clearly, with the schools shut down and opening up, at limited capacities, many students are studying from home. So we're seeing a great growth in what is web traffic these days. So business and decision making. So how can my business evolve during these times? Is it possible to look at this pandemic as an opportunity? Is it? Think about it for a second. As things are changing, some things are evolving. Can I use this time to learn something new, to take my talent to the next level? So can it be an opportunity? Sure. If you're a disc jockey, maybe you want to learn how to produce music from home. You can take that talent to the next level. You can learn these web platforms that we're using right now. Where are my finances best used, and how can I survive? So a lot of us are limited with cash flow. And, it's really time to decide what we're going to do and how we're going to move forward with our businesses here in the entertainment business. So, there we have it. There's some new rules changing the game right now for those of us, and let's go over some of them. So, of course, there's changing priorities and reevaluating large-scale events. There's restricted frameworks at venue spaces. There's attendance based on capacities and based on the geographical hotspots. So, it's different in Miami, Florida, as it would be in Tallahassee, Florida, or someplace in the Midwest. So, of course, depending on what's going on in that particular area with the number of cases of COVID, we are seeing the attendance, change at these different places. Social distancing requirements are limiting this social interaction as well. Event times based on new closing times and restrictions, as most of you have noticed, our shopping malls have new closing times. Of course, our bars, either if they're open, they've got, closing times too, and there's curfews that are coming into place. Mask wearing and other protective measures are also part of the new rules of this game. So, mask wearing is required in some places, So will it be like it ever was? Honestly, I don't know that it will be. So here's how it's changing the game. So how do we continue to create those memorable moments in a safe way? So we need to change our game, and we need to think about how to create these memorable moments, as we always have done in this business. How do we do this in a safe way? Are large-scale events necessary anymore? Do you need to have, a big party of, 1,000 people, half these people you don't even know, at a wedding or a bar mitzvah or some some other big event. Akeen says, do we really need those large scale events? Or is there something to be said about small scale events? The intimacy and the privacy of some of these things. And sometimes it makes it more meaningful. Appropriating your craft and business messaging depending on the rules in place for your geographic area. So let's talk a little bit about that, your messaging. So keep current with the latest news about the pandemic. That's first and foremost. How will you handle situations as they arise? So what kind of messages are you sending to your clients as far as things that are coming up? How are you handling these situations? You need to be clear and concise with your instruction on the measures that you are taking to prevent transmission of the virus. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. Be transparent also on the limitations of your services due to the pandemic. Listen, if you don't think you can do this safely, you need to just be honest about it. Say, listen, I'm not equipped to do something like that. Maybe you've got to come in there and do something outdoors with tents and generators, and you don't have generators, or you don't have these tents to house people like that. Just be sure that you're transparent. We're working with you, and most people will work with you. Just stay positive. That's the bottom line, is just to stay positive. Here's some of the strategies: deciding on the risks, assessing the threat, and adapting to these times. So with government guidelines changing all the time these days, it's difficult to see how things will actually pan out over the coming year. Even when in-person events resume, the reality is likely to be that attendees will be split between those willing and able to attend physically and those who won't. There's going to be a group of people who I don't want to go, I don't want to put myself at risk. According to the CDC, the risk for spreading COVID-19 at social events and gatherings, they increase this way. So here's from the CDC. Highest risk, of course, is large in-person gatherings, where it's difficult for individuals to remain spaced at least 6 feet apart, and attendees travel from outside the local area. So, you're bringing risk from other areas. So if they're coming from a high-risk area of COVID and they're coming into your space, 2 towns away, they're bringing that with them, and, you can eventually have a super spreader type event. Higher risk, medium-sized in-person gatherings that are adapted to allow individuals to remain spaced at least 6 feet apart, and with attendees coming from outside the local area again. So, keep that in mind. Where are people coming from, and what risk do they bring to the crowd that's there? More risk, smaller outdoor and in-person gatherings in which individuals from different households remain spaced at least 6 feet apart, wear masks, do not share objects, and come from the same local area. So we're talking about families, that come together at home in their backyards or someplace like that, or at a small venue space. There's the lowest risk, of course, is right here, online, together, virtual only activities, events, and gatherings. There's absolutely no risk of me transmitting a virus to you from this screen over here. At least not yet. Maybe a computer virus, but not a COVID virus. So anyway, the higher the level of community transmission in that area that the gathering is being held, the higher the risk of COVID-19 spreading during that particular gathering. So keep that in mind. Here's some of the action plans. So let's take some action plan with our business here. So what you can do is develop a plan to stay relevant, to build and grow your audience, and continue to brand. In addition, you may have to readjust your life to fit your income. Let's face it, we're all struggling, right? Be honest with yourself about your current income during these times and make the tough decisions in order for you to come out with your head above the water. DJ Quicksilva. So let's look at some of the decision making that we need to make. Here's some alternatives. Here's some areas of uncertainty, high risk consequences, interpersonal issues, and complexities. So let's go right into what are some of our alternatives? So reevaluating our pricing and costs. So, be mindful of the current economy and how you spend your money, right? Working with your clients and with venues and adhering to the status quo. So can you charge $1,000 for an event, when you can put this event on for half that price? And look at the clients and what they might be struggling with, as well. So, and where are you enforcing and strengthening other sources of your income? All right, so many of us mobile events DJs are struggling with this time, and we're looking at other jobs to bring some income into our house. So, are we looking also at how we can build our online or virtual business? Is there a way that we can translate this that way? Endorsements or benefactors, you could, look towards other companies to endorse you, and there's also a primary or secondary place of employment. So some of us are going out and taking office jobs, or jobs we can do online. And navigating the uncertainty. So how do we navigate the emotional roller coaster during this time? Of course, it's very disheartening what's going on in the world, and it's hard for us to really kind of keep our spirits up. And how are you doing that? How are you navigating this emotional roller coaster? Follow some constructive practices, support and community. So reach out to people out there to support. We're all struggling through this. So you've seen the hashtag, we're all in this together. I mean, not from High School Musical, but, yes, we are all in this together, folks. This is a time for us to come together as a community. And how will you adjust to this? What will shift for you during these times? Maybe you'll find other priorities. Where are your priorities, right? And what are your options? What options do you actually have? Do I shut the business down? I mean, some of us are actually seriously considering, and some of us already have. I've seen some DJs close their warehouses down and, bringing it home. I mean, I did that here myself. I had to take my warehouse, shut it down. I built a shed in the backyard where I can house everything, and that's where I've got business. It's right here out of my home. Now, can I pause? What will it look like when I can resume business? So maybe right now you can't do it, so you took on a part-time job and you're going to hit pause on that because eventually things will come back up again. But when things do come back, what's the environment going to look like? What's the economy going to look like? What are people going to be willing to spend for an event? So considering the risks, your business will be affected. What you do now is going to determine the future of your company. So consider that. Where you spend your money today is going to do that. So how you manage the content of our events has changed. Making wise decisions on cutbacks and investments. I mean, some of us have had to let go some of our staff, and that's unfortunate. But it's something that needs to happen. Another consideration for those looking at investing in some new equipment. I mean, listen, I'm somebody who wants to pick up the newest and brightest piece of electronic. So, if you've got the money, be warned that there might be some shortages down the line. So, if you've got it, retailers have been warned. Let me tell you, some retailers have been warned by several brands that shortages are coming. And that's because manufacturing plants are running on limited capacities. Some places are struggling financially as well. So, they could be laying off people. They won't have the inventory that they once had because they can't put that product out as quick. So consider that. And if it's important to you and you've got the money, then go for it. If not, then, step back. How important is that to you? That's the question. How important is that to you? So, and of course, we're struggling now with some of our business relationships. Corporate clients are choosing to scale back on these larger functions. Reconsider bookings. These are reconsiderations on bookings from your regulars. So there's some regulars who are going to say, hey, listen, buddy, I can't afford it this year. Times are tough. Or they're going to say, hey, can you do something better for me with pricing? But, we're going to see this be affected in all areas, not just, with our big clients, but also our annual year-to-year events that we typically do. The tough choice of cutting staff to relocate resources for the business, that's the hardest part, man. It's, I had 20 people that used to work for me, and now I'm down to like 5. And those 5 are just like, on call. I don't have gigs for them like I used to have for them. And most of the events I'm working myself. So that means if I'm working a kids party, I might be putting on a costume and I haven't done that in years. So, we're being forced into the world's largest work from home experiment. And it hasn't been easy. It sure hasn't. So factors in getting back to work. So there's engaging with new virtual communities and groups, kind of like how I'm doing right now, engaging with you online. So we are kind of working in this virtual world and integrating new policies and procedures, adhering to new event guidelines. So when you are working events, it's about following those guidelines that are given to you. And we'll go over some of those in a second. Interactions with our audiences and online and at public events has changed as well. The learning curve on working with these new technologies and improving our craft. So listen, I know people who've been in this game for so long that, they're not caught up in all this Zoom business, and they're like, how do I get my voice to sound on here? Why does my microphone sound so crummy? How can I get my DJ board, into my computer here so that I can stream some music? There's a learning curve here, with these new technologies, and some of us may not be familiar with it. So here's the bottom line, y'all. This is surviving this financial storm. So here's where we have to create lists and prioritize our finances. So let's go over some critical costs. These are the operational expenses that we need to operate our businesses. So number one, insurance plans, right? So reevaluate your business needs on coverage. So some of us have our insurance plans based on the amount of income we make annually. Clearly this year is going to be a different. So, get in touch with your insurance agent, talk about it, let them know what your challenges are. You may not need all that money to save on payroll because you don't have the payroll anymore. And also you're not working as many events. So clearly some of those insurance premiums can go down if we reevaluate that. So take a look at those things. Number two, utilities. Now's the time to renegotiate those utilities and other bills. Again, you may not have an office building anymore, so you may have to do that. That goes to number three, office space and warehouse. So determine what is necessary to run your business. Do you need to have a showroom with your equipment set up in there with the stage and lights and music? Is it necessary anymore? Do you have the finances to maintain a space like that? Some of us don't. Some of us have closed those places down. So think about that. These are some critical costs. Some other costs, consider costs on your music pools and subscriptions, those of you DJs out there. So I used to subscribe to about 7 or 8 different record pools out there, and now I'm down to 3. Consider your streaming subscriptions, I only have 2 streaming services right now that I subscribe to, and I brought that down from like a dozen of them that I used to have. So necessary costs, these are expenses that are needed to operate the business. So music equipment. What do you actually need to run your events? Do you need that bubble machine? That brand new one that costs about almost $800 to get, these are things to consider. Do you need that new controller that just hit the market? What equipment is necessary for operations? So think about that. Additional expenditures. Which areas can you control your spending? All right, these are some of the additional expenses we have. So where can we control our spending in those areas? And other areas to think about, here's some new spending categories. COVID preparedness, masks, sanitizing equipment, these sort of things. So consider that you need to have a line item in your budget for these kind of things. Additional costs. These are important, but not absolutely necessary. Again, we're talking about investments in technology. That new piece of equipment or instrument. I just mentioned that to you a second ago. Think about if you really need it or you don't. You might need a new webcam. That's kind of a cost that you would need if you're going to go virtually, right? You might need a couple of them. Marketing and advertising. So where are you spending your money on that? Are you going to spend money on social media, online, print? These are important to get yourself out there. So think about, those costs. What is absolutely necessary? Maybe you do have a line item in your budget to spend on some marketing and advertising. But think about, print. Is print really relevant anymore? Are you going to put you're going to put a big billboard banner on the highway or something when people aren't traveling? So websites and hosting plans, reevaluate your website and your server capacities. Do you really need to pay for the highest hosting plan? Can you be good with the smallest one? Think about the money you're spending there, and you can reevaluate and take a look at, these things. Streaming services and record pools, and determining which are most important to you. So pretty self-explanatory. We just talked about that. Now, something else I want to talk about is contracts, communications, and messaging. So adjusting to the pandemic and being sensitive to the situations that others are going through. Messaging needs to be clear and in line with what's happening in your area. Demonstrate transparency with your challenges to accommodate the safety of your clients, guests at an event. Address realistic expectations and communicate any concerns or limitations. So with social distancing and people not dancing on the dance floor, you need to explain that, listen, that dance floor may not be packed because there's going to be people who don't want to get close to one another. So think about that. Realistic expectations of what an event is going to look like. Come up with a business statement, which includes measures of safety. Some of us don't even have a mission statement for our businesses, but I think it's important for you to have that. And you want to include in that business statement the measures of safety that you're taking for their events. People want to feel that you care, and you care by putting these statements there of how you're going to keep them safe. So let's talk about contracts. These are additions to include clauses regarding COVID-19 and safety precautions and limitations. You need to address this in your contracts, folks. General liability statements in regards to health and safety. Is it your fault if somebody contracts COVID at an event? If you're taking safety precautions, this is where you're going to put in that language in your contracts now. So revisit your contracts. Communicate the responsibility of behavior of guests and adherence to guidelines. If somebody wants to come in there and breathe on everybody without a mask, and you took the precautions, you posted signs that said, listen, you need to wear masks here. You can't necessarily, put somebody at gunpoint and say, you got to wear the mask. You got to keep socially distanced. There's always going to be the few. Address expectations on planning diagrams. So these are your distance dance floors, the new capacities for your venues, social contacting and distancing, etc. These are, so plan a little diagram and how it's going to look like, where the tables might be spaced in the group, what the dance floor is going to look like, where the DJ booth is going to be, so some of us include, our like a planning diagram with our contracts. So, address these things in those diagrams, and have a backup plan in the event venues go under lockdown due to surging cases. So do you have a force majeure clause in your contracts? Most of us do, where rain or shine. So whether or not, the venue closed down because COVID-19 cases were on the rise in that particular geographical area, do you have something in your contract to, say what you would do in a situation like that? So be clear on your policy for cancellations and, most importantly, those deposit payments. Okay, so for most of my clients, I haven't been refunding deposits on them, but I leave it as a credit on their account. We can reschedule their event, and we can create some, plan on where they can use that with services that I provide. So think about these things. Additional recommendations here. So limiting your political views and religious beliefs. Be mindful of who you may be alienating and what you are communicating to your clients. So there's a lot of political talk these days during this last election. So be mindful, and of course about your religion. Listen, we're here to do a job, and that's entertain you, unless you are, doing an event for a political party somewhere, then that would probably be a place where you can, you share your political views or religious beliefs. But listen, most people hire us to do a job, to go entertain, and that's what we're doing. We're not there sharing who we're voting for or, what God I believe in or any of that stuff. So, please be mindful of that. I've seen way too much out there, I'm going to tell you this much, go vote. Nothing political, that's political, but I mean, I'm not telling you any of my views by telling you to go vote, and it's important, right? Anyhow, do not downplay your client's concern over safety. Listen, you need to be mindful that some people are very concerned, even if you're not. But if your client communicates that they are, you really need to pay attention to that, and don't say, oh, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. Nobody's going to get sick, because you can't guarantee that. Affirm your dedication to adhering to health and safety protocols, even if you don't agree with them, folks. Practice common sense practices and promote healthy behavior at all times, So, coping with COVID-19, take breaks from the news. So these are some ways that we can take care of ourselves. So if you're watching the news all the time, you are probably just as stressed as I am right now. Make some time to unwind, play games with your kids. Now's the time to go into the backyard with your kids and climb up the trees with them and have fun, run around, take them on a walk around the block. Set some goals and priorities. Now's the time, since some of you might be still quarantined at home, now's the time to sit down with a piece of paper and set some goals down. Where do I see myself next month, 5 years from now? Maybe if we don't, just write it there. Take care of your body. So connect with others. I'm doing that online quite a bit. And focus on the facts. So what is factual? Okay? So, there we have some things, and let's talk a little bit now about this safety. Okay, these are some new considerations. These are the developing trends in our industry, and here's the innovation on safety. So here's some considerations, some factors here. Wearing masks. Okay, wear it properly. Mindfulness on handling it. So, are you going to put it on backwards? You're going to put it upside? Are you going to wear it like this under your nose? I mean, you're not protecting anybody this way, yourself or somebody else. So, you got to put it right over this way, put them straight up, The only time you're really taking it off is when you are, eating. Also, being mindful, don't touch like the inside, if you haven't washed your hands or used sanitizer. I tend to kind of just sort of hang it off my ear like this if I'm eating. That way I'm not setting it down. I can set it down here on my desk because I've sanitized my desk. But, if you're eating somewhere, or if you're DJing somewhere or performing, be mindful where that mask goes when you take it off because, you can put it back on and put the virus right onto your face. Social distancing. Get creative on the dance floor. So even though we want to keep people apart, line dancing is perfect for that. Because you say, all right, everybody, hands apart, find your own space, and, you do an electric shuffle, or you do a Macarena dance, or whatever line dance, some square dance of some sort. But you can separate people on the dance floor this way. Make it fun. You can get creative on the dance floor. You can even limit, the people. All right, everybody who was born in 1984, come on up to the dance floor and show us your best moves. All right, everybody in 1990, whatever. You can get creative on the dance floor, with everyone. So think about social distancing and how you're creating this environment for them to interact with one another. Equipment sanitation. So consider your cables. Your props. Some of us have like an hora loca and we bring out all kinds of props. Do we still need to bring that stuff out? Probably not. We don't need to. But if you do, make sure that they're sanitized. And in most cases, it's a giveaway. Don't give it back. It's yours now, Microphones, take that microphone and make sure you're using wipes to clean them and keep them sanitized. They have, I'll show you now in a second some ideas for a safety kit here. So, and consider symptomatic guests. You're not going out there with thermometers with everybody. Clearly, I'm hoping that people know better that if they've got a fever, they're not leaving the house. But you can sort of see on the dance floor somebody who's coughing a lot, who may be sneezing. Take minimal chances, mitigate the risks. Bring it up to somebody if you need to. Now, here's some developing trends. Greeting without contact. So, some of us are greeting now with our elbows, right? Or kind of like one of these things, like, hey, creative salutations, air hugs. I'm seeing that a lot, air hugs, nods, yo, what's up, saluting, what's going on, Scouts honor, what is it, the Vulcan, live long and prosper, get creative with how you do it, yo, what's up, kind of a thing. So there's no reason to go grab somebody's hands, even fist bumping, but, yeah, I think it's pretty safe to do the elbow thing, or the nod. So contemplate, consider doing outdoor events instead of indoor events if possible. So consider tenting, power, and then if you do have, an outdoor event, consider, the inclement weather as well and how you're going to do that. If you put walls around that tent, it's the same thing as doing it indoors, right? So unless you only have 2 walls and 2 open spaces. So just consider these. Barriers to your performance area. So we have stanchions that we could put in there, which I think is kind of cool. Now some places are requiring plexiglass over your DJ booth. Signage, there's nothing wrong with putting up a sign around the place. I'll show you a couple different signs in a little bit. Equipment and furniture placement, seating, table, speakers, DJ equipment. Where are you going to put this? Where are you going to limit it, in the areas? So here's some safe kit essentials. All right, so number 1, face masks. Face masks, folks. Okay. Number 2, alcohol and Clorox wipes. Highly coveted. I mean, it's like finding gold when you can find Clorox wipes somewhere. But, have something that you can use to sanitize. So hand sanitizer, yes, that's very useful. Have a couple of them. You'll be liable to run out. Sanitizing sprays and liquids, your Lysols, cleaning products that sanitize, and bring that with you because you're going to need it to, wipe off your instruments, wipe off your cables. Some people don't think about doing that with the cables, but yeah, absolutely. Disposable gloves. So as you're sanitizing, use disposable gloves. That way, you don't get it on yourself. Disposable microphone screens, they do sell. It's kind of like a condom to put on your microphone. So, these are some ways. So if you're handing the mic off to someone, consider the germs that are going onto there. Not just onto the actual, piece there of the microphone, but also, holding onto it and such. So this is why you have the sanitizing wipes to wipe them clean, and the microphone screens for any particulates that may come out of that person's mouth into that. Face shields or goggles. I've seen some pretty cool looking face shields out there. So now with the DJs wearing masks and stuff, I mean, it's like now's the time to wear those masks and those face shields. There's some cool ones, and there's some that have like lights around them and stuff. I mean, I think you can be creative and make it fun and keep it safe for yourself. The contactless thermometer, that's something to have there just in case, like we were talking about, if you start seeing a symptomatic guest out there. Large disposable bags, of course, for those wipes that you've used, for face masks that you're disposing, or gloves. Have a bag that you have there ready to dispose. I can't tell you, my pet peeve is just seeing this stuff just lying on the floor, in a parking lot somewhere. It's despicable. And if you are capable and have access, a rapid COVID test is not a bad idea. So, take a look at that. They are available out there. Here's some innovative ideas. These are ways for you to prevent super spreader events. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of some different events here on how they have taken some precautions. So check this out. I love this one right here. Oh my God. It's like having box seats. I think this is pretty amazing. But it's a great way to keep them social distant, right? Here's some other ones here. Bumpers. This is kind of fun. I think it's kind of cool to see something like that. Social distance bumper tables. Amazing. Here we go, a wedding. Everybody's wearing masks. Check out the Mrs. and Mr. mask. If you can kind of zoom in there, you might be able to see it. And you can look behind them. People are kind of distanced. This is how we're doing it these days, and it's outdoors. Check out this over here, DJ partying. Everybody in this seat instead of dancing. They're dancing from their seats. Yeah. So here we go, another angle. So pretty cool. I mean, you could still have fun in an environment like this. I see smiles out there in the audience. It could be fun, and stay in the area. It doesn't mean that they can't stand up in those areas. They could, of course, Heck, you can do some sort of game around that. Why not? That could be fun. So this is what we see here, sanitizing equipment, at some of the venue spaces here. This is kind of cool. They used basically, tape to separate areas. Everybody has their own little area where they can party. Here, check out a bartender scene. You can easily set up a DJ booth right around that as well. Those are the plexiglass barriers. Here's another one too. Fairly inexpensive solution for you, as you see here. We're seeing empty dance floors, but that doesn't mean you can limit the fun. Check out how they did over here as well, with these social circles, if you will. Families and friends, that are safe with one another right there in that area. Here's some signs. These are some banners that you can use in an event. Post them around the place. And you'll find a lot of these online in different places. Of course, we've got easy ways to protect yourself. This could be a nice big poster. Wash your hands, physical distance, cover face, don't touch, avoid, unless you're Mr. Monk, right? You like to touch stuff. But I'm sure Mr. Monk is suffering during this time, right? Mr. Monk from the TV show, if any of you out there watch that. Before entering, please follow these guidelines. Have a face covering, wash and sanitize hands, maintain social distance. You see a pattern here, folks? COVID-19 dance etiquette. So that person can't walk up to your DJ booth to make that request, but maybe they can text it to you. And hey, this is another way to get people to interact with you outside of a party. You got your contact info out there. People can call you for a party next time. So there's an opportunity. While dancing, would be safe to keep them 10 feet apart instead of 6 because, we're moving at this point. Consider your underlying health risks for COVID-19 before signing up. Use of hand sanitizer and face care. So these are all some dance etiquette. So, consider that. Here we go. Social distance. Please always keep a safe distance. You can post a photo like this on some, place near your DJ booth or stage area. So those are some pretty cool, innovative ideas. Doesn't mean that things can be boring, guys. It's as exciting as you decide to make it. If you are having a good time with, I always say, if the DJ is having a good time, everyone's having a good time. Whoever's on that stage performing, if they're having a good time, the audience is having a good time. So you're the entertainer. You're the one who is bringing that mood into the room. So how are you doing this? And keep this in mind with some safety. Now, the South Florida DJ Association wants to offer ways for you to get certified. Here's a little shameless plug for SFDGA. We are here to make sure that all our people that go out there is practicing some safety guidelines. And here's some of the CDC guidelines that, we'd like you to follow. So here's a readiness and planning tool based on the CDC. As some communities in the United States begin to plan and hold events and gatherings, CDC offers the following readiness and planning tools to share ways event planners and administrators can help protect staff, volunteers, attendees to slow the spread of COVID-19. Washing hands, we've seen this, right? Over and over again. I'm a broken record. Here's some more specific. So, we can send you the PDF of this. If you want to just drop me a comment, I will send you this if you'd like. This is a PDF, or you can go to the CDC website. You can find that there as well. You can see policies and procedures, some facilities and supplies you need, for soap, water, hand sanitizer, paper towels, tissues, cleaning supplies, cloth face, all these things. Develop a schedule for increased routine cleaning and disinfection, close share spaces, education and training. Create a plan for your staff. Train them. Make sure that they know, what the safety guidelines are. Policies and procedures, you need to develop those policies. Facilities and supplies, make sure ventilation systems operate properly. Listen, you're not going to run, a party or an event inside a space where you don't have proper ventilation. That's just asking for trouble. Your messaging, develop a plan to create and disseminate clear messages and about behaviors. So this is where I'm talking about. And post it on your websites, on your social media accounts, for clients to be able to see this. Create signs at entrances, dining areas, restrooms, all these things. Have a plan, folks. And prepare if someone gets sick. Create a plan to educate staff and attendees to ensure that they know they should not come to the event if they're sick. Separate individuals. The moment you notice somebody feel looking sick, separate them from the crowd. Safely transport sick individuals. Okay, there's state and local laws and regulations. Make sure you know what they are. Again, here's some more, daily and weekly readiness assessment here. You can, again, look at all these stuff on the CDC, or like I said, I'd be glad to send you a PDF on all of this. So communication and messaging, end-of-day actions and resources. So, these, determine ways to improve planning and implementation process if the event will happen again. Inform staff and attendees of any changes made. Update your plans regularly. So make your notes. These are some of the guidelines provided just through the CDC and what the SFDJ wants. The South Florida DJ Association, this is what we want you to know so that you can go out there and have safe events where you can still have a good time. And we'll give you a little stamp of approval as well. So get with us to figure this out. So let's take a look at the future of entertainment, the post-COVID-19 reboot. So it's, entertainment 2.0, 3.0. I think we're at 5.0 at this point. And how to be ready for the unexpected. Is this going to be the last pandemic we see? Probably not. We saw one 100 years ago, and we're already hearing about COVID-19 mutating. So, be prepared. It's not bad to have these things in place because the better prepared you are, the more successful you're going to be. So there are possibilities in the realm of technology, virtual reality, like I was mentioning to you earlier. Oh my God, how freaking cool that you can put these headsets and you're like transported to another world. I was like in a nightclub setting and I felt like I was actually there. I was standing behind the DJ booth and I was like, yeah, let me put my hands on those boards over there too. So much fun, virtual reality. DJs right now and entertainers are flocking to the internet to stream music sets. Now be mindful of the copyright laws out there. And there are places you can go to where you can stream, where you can do so legally. So check those out. And if you have any, if you need any ideas, just, send me a little message. I'll be glad to send you some resources and places you can go. Or, get publishing rights. So, pay your dues. Events happening virtually online through meeting rooms are happening, and experiencing music events from home through 360 VR. I just saw it was BB Rexa. in a 360 VR room. I felt like I was there standing right next to BB Rex. It was freaking amazing. So, and there are platforms out there that allow you to host your event virtually, and in virtual reality realms. So there's a video. Just go online and check out, what's out there.
Seeing your favorite artist in person is one of the best feelings in the world. As a performer myself, I love the energy of DJing to a packed house. What if that feeling could be replicated in virtual reality? Watching a concert in VR is not a new concept. Many artists have done 360 videos of their shows.
So check those out online. They're pretty cool. And think about maybe learning that technology if you can. So this is one way to evolve your business. This is next level stuff, guys. Stay engaged and reinforce community. We're in this together. So let's, all us entertainers here, lift each other up and encourage one another, okay? There is hope out there. Share the market. There's room for everyone to work. Collaborate, fill in, give someone a gig. If you still have calls coming in, but your fellow DJ or singer over there is having trouble, throw them a bone, man. Why not? Share it, because if we all stay engaged and involved, we don't need to corner the market on this sort of thing. We can share this market. There's plenty of people in the world, that can use our services. So, build that network, inspire one another, share your talent, expertise. Maybe you're awesome behind the DJ booth, but you need somebody to come and MC. Reach out to somebody who is a good MC. Reach out to a singer. Maybe you can incorporate some drums into your set. Bring a drummer onto your event. Lots of ways that we can stay engaged and work with one another. Be creative with all of that. This world has changed. There will be a new normal. Okay? So this pandemic has changed our priorities, how we live our lives, and how we experience life. So it's important for us to assess what's really important right now. For me, I've come to see family in a way that I've never seen them before. I mean, we are closer now than ever because of all this new world and post-pandemic versus the old world pre-pandemic. Just find appreciation. Now we're seeing find gratitude in what you've gained and the treasure of the wisdom that you've acquired through this, because, this is precious stuff. You can take this and turn it around and make this a learning experience for you. So this is how we survived the pandemic, my fellow entertainers out there. We can definitely make a change in this world, and if we just follow some simple guidelines and stay positive, we can keep this business going out there. We're all struggling, but we can make it through this. So anyhow, that's the end of my little streaming podcast here. I really appreciate you coming in and checking this all out with me. I am DJ Jesse Mix, and I'm going to sign out right about now, and I hope that you really enjoyed this little presentation, if you will. Please be sure to like my page and reach out anytime. DJ Jesse Mix, signing out. Bye, y'all.